I'm super excited to lead this particular panel because I have a love for doing community myself. So my name is Cherie Werner, and I am the founder and chief encouragement officer at FIESTA. And no, not the grocery store. FIESTA is an acrostic for founders, investors, entrepreneurs, startups, techies, and Austin newcomers. And we launched in 2021 as we were coming out of the pandemic because I sensed a greater need for real in-life connections, especially after the isolation of the pandemic. And we help founders get seen, feel supported, and provide resources for them, all in an unbiased, community-driven way. So to my surprise, each month we continue to draw 200 attendees, and 60% of them are founders. We now host over 65 events and have had over 10,000 attendees come through our events. And we've been launched initiatives like the Found Hers group for women entrepreneurs, as well as doing 2 newsletters. We do the FIESTA Focus and the Founders Herald, and then most recently we did a startup called Event Magic, where we're now making networking at events like FIESTA more relational by turning the room full of strangers into a buzzing, high-value network and providing community leaders with insight. So I'm going to be your moderator for the next 50 minutes. I'm going to try and keep us on time, but our real stars are these builders, community builders right here, and they each bring a unique experience and service to what they do. So I'm going to go ahead and kick things off, and what I want you to do is to introduce yourself, kind of tell us what you do professionally, and describe the community or communities that you lead and what makes them unique. So we can go down the line this way.
Me first.
You first.
Me
You're
first.
stuck doing it.
Yes. This is an accident, by the way. Hi, guys. Thanks for coming in today. My name's Kasey Randall. I'm a product designer by trade. I've been in UX and tech for the last 12 years. Across those years, I've also run multiple communities across New Orleans, DC, and now Austin. I am the proud founder of the Austin Tech and UX Community Meetup. Obviously, here in Austin, We've grown to nearly 3,000 members. We've hosted over 60 events, I think, thus far, almost 4 years we've been in existence. And selfishly, I started these groups to making friends and building my professional and personal networks, and also getting in deep with bar owners in Austin, so that for special treatment and hosting events in their venues, like we did for South by this past year at Whistler's. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm also an AI enthusiast. I build apps and games for fun, and I love dogs, and I'll pass it down.
I love that. Hi, I'm Cyndi Schultz. I'm VP of Sales at Capital Factory. I lead all revenue not tied to our venture arm at Capital Factory, and what makes my job unique is that I get to make friends for a living and turn it into actionable opportunities for the startup ecosystem. So at Capital Factory, we're the most active early stage investor in Texas. We've actually expanded our network outside of the state of Texas and have satellite locations in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere that you'll hear about over the next year. We set ourselves apart from other venture arms by partnering with other active investors, both in our community and outside of our community. And we have this steady stream of really cool people coming in through our doors because we give them most often free space to be able to do that. We learned early on that the best way to make connections is to ensure all the right people are in the room. And so I get to really enjoy meeting with people like who are sitting beside me because all of our missions align. And because of that, we have a lot of varying and unique individuals who come through our door.
All right, my turn. Hi there, my name is Laura Santamaria. I currently am a community architect and principal engineer at Red Hat. I've been at a number of companies throughout the Austin area, globally, wherever, startups, whatever you name it. I've done everything from operations engineer and developer all the way out through CTO. But I enjoy doing communities, and the reason I'm up here is because I'm part of the DevOps Days Austin community. I'm one of the organizers there. I'm a global DevOps Days organizer. I also run Cloud Austin here in Austin. I've run Austin DevOps. I've helped with Women Who Code. We just celebrated our 13th year for DevOps Days Austin and Cloud Austin and Austin DevOps, so lots of really exciting things. Thank you. And so I'm just kind of here to talk about community, and that's really it, I guess. I don't know. What else was I supposed to say?
Yeah.
Do you love dogs?
I do love dogs. I have 2. I have border collies. They need a job. I'm really terrified to go home and find out what they've been doing all day.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Emily Gupton. I am Chief Technology Officer of a professional services firm in Austin called SKG. Spent the last few years also developing a SaaS platform that serves the commercial real estate architecture and design and furniture community, super niche space. And I am also president-elect for Austin Women in Technology, which is my love of community, my love of equity, and supporting people on all parts of their journey. So AWT has been in existence for over 20 years now. We're grassroots to Austin, and we cycle through about 600 to 700 active members at any given time, and we've got about 4,000 people on our mailing list, and we love community, and we love working with other organizations in Austin to provide for our members what we don't provide. And a little bit about AWT, we're here for find a network, find a friend, find a mentor, make a career change, meet people. Austin's a really unique and amazing space, and I think we'd all have similar but also different stories about that on our own journeys. And so I love it. I'm passionate about people. I also serve as events co-chair for the Austin AI Alliance, which is pretty new. I've been around for about a year and really trying to convene all things AI, whether you're in the arts, you're in media, you're a developer, UI, UX, whatever that looks like. So it's super fun to get that community off the ground as well.
Okay. Well, so I'm curious, who should attend your events and why? And are you mostly in person, or is it virtual, or is it a combo of both?
I can start this one.
Go for it.
So for Austin Women in Technology, most of our events are in person. We do everything from, we host the Women's Summit at Innotech in the spring. We've been doing that for 11 years now, which is insane. All the way to like networking happy hours, speakers. We do a lot of different things. So every month is a little bit different. You can come if you're not a member. You can come if you're not a woman. We need allies in the space to support the women on their journeys. So we do welcome anyone to our event as long as you support women. For the AI Alliance, we do have monthly in-person meetings at the ACC Rio Grande Center in West Austin. I feel like a lot of people are over there now, so you can check us out over there.
I guess we'll come down the line.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense. So Cloud Austin is in person. We host every third Tuesday. It's either down on the odd months down at Central Machine Works as a networking event, or a talk event on the even months up at Q2 Banking's offices up in Cedar Park. Austin DevOps is down south at Coder every second Monday. Yes, second Monday. DevOps Days Austin is also in person, obviously. We just had our event on the 1st and 2nd. Next year will be the 5th and 6th. Pi Texas, I forgot to mention that one. Pi Texas I'm also involved with. They do virtual meetups, so if you're really interested in that, they'll be able to do stuff on Discord. But they also have a number of events throughout all of Texas because they're called the Pi Texas Foundation for a reason. They are pan-Texas, I guess you could say. I think your question, though, is why? Why do we have all of these different spaces? And so, to me, one of the nice things is that in person lets you actually connect with people. You get to talk with them. You get to experience having that one-on-one discussion. But I understand that there's a lot of people who can't for various reasons. Maybe they can't get away from family in the evenings. Maybe they have some problems interacting with people in person because they just can't. So virtual environments allow you to go and learn something new and be part of a community, but not necessarily have to be there in person. So sometimes there's some other options. You should look for both, but I happen to prefer the in-person ones. That's me.
Yeah, just to add to that, we have over 40 free meetups that take place at Capital Factory monthly. They're all in person, to my knowledge. Our events that we produce range from summits to academies or large cornerstone events like South by Southwest that we host out of our location. All are in person with the exception of we do have some learning academies that are free to attend. and those will be able to be streamed online for anyone, all with access to learn how to invest, how to run a startup, how to fundraise, et cetera. We all had to pivot to a virtual life not too long ago, which, as y'all were anything like us, was quite challenging. We run a business, including a co-working facility, that literally makes our money by being in person. So pivoting to a virtual life was super challenging. Also, like starting a business, as we all can probably attest to, like there are in-person components you just can't get away from. So we do try to, I mean, like, you know, we all figured it out, right? We all figured out how to keep the world going with a virtual component. So we do try to allow moments where you can join online by streaming all of our events and stuff for you to access online. But to your point, I think that being that we all have lived a virtual life, partially, you know, because that was what was safest for all of us, we now can attest to the best connections come from those that are done in person. And so we do continue to host most of our programs and events in person.
Yes, exactly. To that point, like we've said, we've all were forced to go remote, and some of us stayed remote, and some of us choose to stay remote. No matter what the offers are, we stay at home, because I love working at home. It's definitely the best, especially with the dogs. And so ATX, or Austin Tech and UX, is strictly in person. We've actually hosted many of our events at Capital Factory as well, and we need to get back on that schedule again.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, yes. And we've been all over Austin, from Lazarus Brewing at 9:30 in the morning for our coffee clubs, to Capital Factory, to Whistler during South by Southwest. We've hosted educational and social events, UX mixers. I've had inspirational speakers, all sorts of different types of events around Austin. And the reason why we strictly do it in person is just like Cyndi said, just like there's the best connections are always in person. It's also another reason for me to get out of my house, and because I'm a super social person. I'm definitely a social butterfly, and I have to get out and do stuff, and it's a great way to meet people and get out. And there's another level of energy also when you're in person versus virtual. We're already all virtual. I don't want to be virtual after work, so we're in person.
Okay, that sounds good. So what do you think are the essential building blocks for a strong, healthy, and inclusive community?
I'll kick this one off. Yeah, I'm very proud of what Austin Tech and UX has done, and what we did in DC with District Creatives, and what we did with our Dribble meetups years before that. It's about just welcoming everyone to open arms, regardless of background or focus or industry, or even if they're an artist trying to get into UX, like going back into transitional careers. Welcoming them, I think we made a really good, for all of our events, we're up front. We're greeting everyone that comes in the door. Hey, welcome. Oh, what do you do? Great, let me connect you with this person. And we lead them on. And there's name badges, and there's activities, and there's things that are just open to everyone, and also supporting women and people of color as well, and making sure that those voices are heard and they are included, and doing our best to have just a really great just breadth of content, is what we like to call it, for our events. Just try to don't focus on one thing, spread it out, right? Try to touch on several different types of topics, as many as you can, from photography to artificial intelligence. So cover the gamut, be inclusive, and be open to everyone.
And just to, I think, make introductions as often as you can. Like I think Austin is one of the fastest growing cities in the US. We are constantly meeting super large companies that are moving into town, but also onesie twosie individuals. So even if it doesn't totally make sense why someone should be connected, look for those inroads, because it could literally change someone's trajectory of themselves personally or their career. And so I would just make an introduction literally whenever you can. There's 2 people in this room, 3 with John as well, who I call them super connectors. Cherie, Marissa, Emily, these people are people that I would pick up a phone and be like, I need to meet someone who does this. And so be that person for someone else, because it's a really valuable resource.
I was also going to add to all of that, also reach out to various different groups that and say, hey, would you like to join us? Can I get you a free ticket if you're doing an event? Or if it's a community event, just say like, hey, can we cross-promote? Can we talk to each other so that we can cross-pollinate across all of those communities?
We just had a
done that.
conversation
Yeah.
about this 5 minutes ago.
That's why it reminded me.
Good.
Yeah, I think I don't have much to add to that. You guys all had great points. I think Austin's super collaborative, being able to provide your members with other resources in your community or things that are available, because you may not be the home for them forever for community, and that's okay, which is why I think that's really special about Austin. There are a lot of groups that come together to provide value for all of Austin, to make Austin awesome, and I hope we continue to lead on that party wagon.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is consistency. The same place, same time, kind of same format, because it makes people feel comfortable. So moving on, what practices have you seen work well in bringing people together from adjacent but different industries? Emily, you want to start that? Because I know that was the question that you added.
Sure. Yeah. So for Austin Women in Technology, where you don't have to be deeply technical, frankly, you don't even have to be like in tech to join our organization. We welcome anyone who's interested in the space or wants to make a career transition or is trying to find people to vibe with. And so I think that helps that. Oh my gosh, I just totally blanked on the question. I'm like thinking
the
about
end of the
AWT
day.
and all the
It
things.
is
Y'all,
the
I've
end
been
of
here
the
all
day.
day. Y'all know who was in here? Start of the day. Who's been here since 9?
Yeah.
All right. And stay for the bull riding. Don't forget, good prizes, y'all, like an iPad. Who's going to ride the bull?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, here.
bull? I-
There's a bull riding.
Mechanical bull. Mechanical bull.
Well, I think it's mechanical. It's
Yes.
mechanical.
Okay.
It was mechanical.
I didn't know we had that to look
Bull
forward
riding.
to. Okay. Anybody else want to answer that?
I don't even remember the question.
Yeah, I got distracted. I'm sorry.
So I
y'all.
was asking, what do you think? It says, let's see, what practices have you seen work well to bring people together from adjacent but different industries?
Yeah, I think I'll finish that by saying, like, we just welcome everyone. Like,
Yeah.
whether you're curious, like, wanting to meet somebody in UI UX, wanting to meet somebody who's a developer, wanting to meet CTO, whatever that looks like. So, yeah, it's been really great for us.
Yeah. I was going to say, like with FIESTA, we're like a hub, and we view everybody as a spokes. So if you're a woman in tech, I'm going to introduce you to Emily, or vice versa, because it's not about me doing an event. It's about the founder and the person finding what they're looking for.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm sure everyone in this room has been invited to like a free dinner sponsored by whoever. Like, you can toss like a rock and find, a free happy hour somewhere. We tried to take it one step further and build like strategic founders dinners or strategic round table events. And we just try to ensure I like the analogy of a spoke, that, there's a handful of founders, there's a handful of investors, there's a handful of partners. And then like sometimes we'll throw in like a policymaker or like someone else who's like interesting and doesn't would just bring a different perspective to the conversation. And sometimes there's like, maybe not an argument, but a differing opinion. And that's like what makes these things that's what like enacts change, but also brings value to a conversation that might like land flat otherwise. And so that's how we tend to structure something that might seem typical and try to take actionable next steps.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I don't actually think about it too much. I just tell people to bring their friends. Maybe I don't have a great answer
Yeah,
here.
same.
But I mean, basically, I just say, hey, this is welcome to everybody. You want to bring your kid? We get kids to come to DevOps Days Austin, Pi Texas. We offer an under 18 ticket for Pi Texas itself. It's more just hey, why not? Come, join us. Who knows? You might learn something. Or you just get free food. Why not just come? It's usually fine. So I don't plan anything. I just kind of do it, I guess.
Okay, so we're going to move on to one of my favorite parts. This is like the real life aspect of running a community. So I want to hear of any personal success stories that you have experienced in your community, and what has worked and why.
I'll just jump on this one. I've personally had a lot of success stories as I consider them over the years, and but one I was actually just talking to my buddy of mine at the happy hour last night for the speakers. My buddy Palmer Fox, he's at Capital Factory as well, and I met him through my group, through Coffee Club. 9:30 in the morning, he came. He had just moved to Austin, and it was a perfect storm. Just him and I completely hit it off. We're still best friends to this day, and when I first met him, 2 weeks later, he joined me for another coffee club, and he met his to-be co-founder. And then basically that morning, I said, Palmer, this is what you're doing, making connections, right, being the spoke, saying, hey, I see you, and also this guy I just met. He's kind of in the same vein. You guys connect. And he basically did a pseudo interview like that morning. And they became good friends and now co-founders. So I consider that a success story. Yeah.
So I had one actually from DevOps Days Austin. I had a chance to actually look at the questions earlier so I could think about this one. DevOps Days Austin not last week, the week before last. I lose track of time. We have a happy hour that we do on the first day, and I had somebody that I've seen in my community here and there. They came to find me with one of the other core organizers to ask some questions for a new person. They brought a new person up to us and said, these are the people you need to connect with. And we started talking with her, and the guy was still standing there. I ended up taking her outside to go meet a super connector that I know, because he was going to be able to help her get into the business. But the guy followed me. He said, hey, you want to come sit down with us? Turns out that it was his dad's friend, her dad's friend and her dad were sitting there. And they said to me, we never really would have come to this community until we had started seeing this DevOps Days thing. So we just kind of showed up a couple of years ago. And we did this thing called Pay Talk, which is where we get into a room and we transparently share what we are earning through an anonymous form. And then we look at it and we tell people, like, if this is you on this, you're getting underpaid, and here's why. And so we start talking through that. So it's not calling anybody out other than the person knows they were the one at that lower end or that higher end, things like that. And then we talk about how to negotiate and things like that. This guy said to me, we wanted to let you know that you've changed our lives. And I said, really? How did we do that? Well, it turns out they were the ones on the low end of the spectrum, and someone literally pointed it and said, if this is you getting paid for this at a director's salary, you're doing something wrong. You need to go ask for more money. And they did, and they ended up leaving the company they were at. They tripled their salary, and they paid off their mortgage.
Tripled.
Tripled. No, he actually told me he tripled it. And I'm sitting there like, I never considered just how much of an impact that was. So that's my personal success story.
I love that. I love that story. We've had a lot at Austin Women in Technology of people just finding other people that have literally changed their lives. And one that's recent and personal for me, this is actually a Cherie's event at FIESTA. And in the Found Hers events, you get in these small groups. I moderated a group. My friend Caroline moderated a group, and she met this woman who was in the medical field and was trying to get out of it. She did a boot camp and wanted to get into the tech scene or data analytics, wasn't really sure what that looked like. And so Caroline introduced her to me. She's like, Hamley, you know a lot of people. Can you help her out, give her some advice, whatever? And we met probably for like a month on and off. And then I had something open up on my team. And I was like, you haven't held a job in a kind of data business analyst position, but I'm going to hire you because you approached me, you're curious, you're smart, like, we've met, we've talked, let's see if we can make this work. And she's on my team now, and it was amazing. And I look at her every day, and it just makes me so happy that I was able to provide that for somebody because I met someone at Cherie's event. So
Nice. I love
personal
that.
and community driven.
One of the things that come to mind for us is we actually had a proposal on the stage by a couple who met at our event 2 years ago. So not online dating, but FIESTA.
Did you know it was going to happen?
Yeah, he asked me because it was like to the date and stuff like that. So you never know the impact that a community can have. There's so much serendipity. But there's also the hard component of running a community. They're not the success, it's the challenges that we encounter. And so that's what I want to move on to is what are some of the challenges or conflicts in your community that you've had to navigate? And what has been your best strategies that you can share? So,
yeah, I'm happy to kick this one off because Cherie and I have talked about this a little bit. For us, we're a fully volunteer-run nonprofit organization. We've been around a long time at Austin Women in Technology. And, getting a volunteer board to like show up and do all the things that we need to run this massive organization and put on sometimes 24 events a year. I know we all do a massive amount of work. And so it's capacity life comes up, people need to do other things. Like, how do you set that up for success? How do you automate as much as you can? And Cherie and I were chatting that like AI is probably going to change the game for that, but then you have to like sit down and actually do it. So it's definitely the capacity and then scaling that to serve as our membership base grows, as our sponsor base grows, as our sponsored needs grow. How do you pivot with that as a volunteer community? It's been challenging, but interesting.
Or y'all are all volunteers, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, we all are volunteers. Okay, anybody else want to answer that? Challenges, conflicts?
I'll jump in on that one. Luckily, we don't have or haven't had too many issues besides volunteers, and you can't necessarily teach passion. So finding those volunteers who are there with you along the road. It's when you're a founder, it's your baby, and you have to do everything. Everything else falls on you. So that's a huge challenge I've experienced as well. But also sometimes at social events, it's happened once in DC where we had a person that was not there for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And going back to, supporting and not supporting women, he was creating a very uncomfortable situation for a lot of our female attendees. And luckily, I don't have a problem with conflict or resolution. So I had to, Vince and I, the founders, both had to escort him out of the event and explain to him why it was happening. And, unfortunately, those things will happen. Thankfully, they haven't happened very often, but that's been one of my, that one sits with me. Yeah. And I make sure that if it does happen again, I do approach it proactively.
Laura, you and I were talking about this. You want to share what y'all do?
Yeah, so since I do so many different events and so many different groups, we have very formalized processes. So I have had to have interesting conversations with people about appropriate behavior at a conference or at a meetup or at any kind of event. I've also had to have some very interesting, how do we tell this person they are no longer welcome in the community? We have very formalized process. We write it down. We have an entire system of warning. So we have an informal warning, which is just a conversation, a formal warning, which is an email, a temporary cool down, which is you can't come back for a year, and then a permanent ban, which is what it sounds like. But the biggest things that we actually do is because we have a large enough group of people helping run this, I always have a second person, and we have that conversation with always two organizers, so there's always a witness to the conversation happening. And we always make sure there's more than one gender, including the person who is being accused. Their gender is represented among those two people, so that there's never a discussion about what was appropriate and what was not. But generally, I mean, it sucks that we have to have these kinds of things. It sucks that we have to have these run books. It sucks that we have to do these kinds of conversations. But, I mean, if we want to have a really good community, sometimes you need to take the village and make it grow. And sometimes you get people who don't really want to help you make it grow. So you have to go through and have a process and be ready to handle anything that comes your way. I hate sounding so doomsday-ish, but we have processes for everything, whether it's fire, tornado, because we have had tornado warnings in the middle of conferences before. That was fun. But as well as just what do we do with a community member who's not doing the right thing? What do you do with a volunteer who's not helping anymore, or an organizer who kind of disappears on you? We've got processes for everything.
Cyndi?
I was just going to say less of a conflict and more of an ongoing challenge that many of us in this room face is the fact that there's always multiple events that are all really important happening on the same day or the same night, and trying to deconflict as much as possible. And I think that really just comes down to over communicating what you're doing whenever possible, and then looking for points of collaboration. Specifically, like, how can I help you? Like, at some point in time, there's only 365 days in the year. We got to do our thing. So, like, my thing happens to fall on the date that your thing is. Can we co-market? Can we collaborate? Can we support each other in some way? And so that's something that is going to be an ongoing challenge as Austin grows, and something that we just try to be cognizant of whenever possible.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next question. How can tech communities better support people in non-traditional or non-linear career paths? And I think this was a question that you provided, Emily. Yeah, you did.
Oh. Do you remember providing it?
Love career.
It's been a long day.
It has. So supporting people in nonlinear paths,
Yeah,
or not in tech. I mean, Well, I'm an example of that. Literally, I joined Austin Women in Technology because I was in kind of a data analytics role as chief of staff. I did a lot of special projects, and my CEO's like, let's go build technology. I was like, cool, I'm going to build a SaaS platform, and I've never done this before. I'm not a developer. So I joined Austin Women in Technology to find the community that I needed, and that's Anna Boley, raise your hand. That's how I met this lovely lady back here who's hosting the stage with me. And so if I think about, that for people who are not in the tech space, opening it up to have a conversation. Our former AWT president said everything is a tech company these days. And it's like so true. Technology's in our face all the time. And so people may feel like they're not in tech, or they're, I'm in the HR department, or I'm in the sales department. I'm not technical. I'm not in tech. And it's like, well, you're selling a piece of technology if you're in the sales department, right? I feel like it's making it relatable and welcoming somebody into that conversation to help them understand what they like about tech or what they really want to do, who can I introduce you to help you on your journey, and just providing that space for people or the other community. Like, I want to be in UI UX. I'm hitting you up over there in the end, Kasey. So that's been really successful, not only for myself personally, but for other people in our network.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of in the same boat. I actually got my degree in earth sciences.
Love it.
And then I was an academic researcher in literacy, and then I was a science educator at a science museum. I'm going to tell you right now, you all cannot intimidate me, because I had 8-year-olds that I had to blow things up on a regular basis to keep them focused.
Yes.
So, yes, exactly. You just have to keep blowing it up. That means they're going to learn something, right? So for me, I actually got my first tech job because of a meetup. I was hosting Women Who Code as a Python teacher, and the recruiter who was our host at Rackspace kept telling me she thought I'd fit really, really well at Rackspace, and my response was, no one's going to hire a random editor who edits science exams for a living as a tech person. You don't have a job for me, Carla. This happened for like 6 months, and then suddenly she says, I have a job for you. Went through the interview process. It was for a technical writer, and I was sitting there in the lobby, and in comes through the door from the Rackspace side to bring me back was one of my students. Turns out she was the director of technical writing at Rackspace. And she said, I love all of your Python courses, and I'm not allowed to hire a software developer, but you can become one. You can do all the work for me, and then we can give you the title eventually. And I said, okay, fine, let's do it. And that's how I'm here. So for me, I think the biggest thing is cultivating the community to also be welcoming, because I can't be everywhere. So basically, I delegate it out to my community, and I say, if I can't be here, you be here. And say, hi, you're new. Welcome. We're excited to have you. You've never heard about this. Take a minute every time you're having a conversation. And if somebody looks confused at some acronym that you're used to using, say what that means. Don't make a big deal out of it, but say, like, oh, yeah, we're talking about AWS. I'm talking about Fargate. Let me explain what that is, or something like that. I was just doing it yesterday. I was just doing it earlier today. That's the kind of thing that I try to instill all of my community members to do, to make it demystify the technical space that they're in so that it feels more welcoming for somebody who is coming from a non-traditional background.
I mean, we have a community of 4 floors filled with all different types of people building all different types of thing, and the one thing they have in common is building a company is really hard. And so we, our co-working space that has almost no interior walls, and we did that for a reason, because we want y'all to talk to one another so that y'all can share the challenges, but also share your wins and share your connections and all that. So, we're industry agnostic, so you're going to be, next to a guy who's building a successful nut butter company, and you're building a SaaS platform, quite literally. So, I mean, there's moments to be supported in all of it. There's challenges and there's wins, and if y'all can't figure it out together, then there's probably a mentor within the community, certainly individuals like us and many, many others who want to share their secrets to success.
These are all great points. I'll just tack on from an attendee perspective, just go. I've been asked so many times via LinkedIn, Meetup, text message from someone is like, should I go to this? What am I going to learn? I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Just go. Have the courage to go. Go with a friend if it makes you feel more comfortable. You might learn something. You might make a friend. You might meet a co-founder. You might learn nothing. That's the risk that we take from hosting events and going to events. And just go. Have the courage to go.
I say it's the magic of going to an event because you never know what's going to happen, who you're going to meet, the serendipity of it all. So, but if you don't go, I can promise you nothing's going to happen. So
I always regret like when I don't say yes to something. Like FOMO hits me pretty hard. I almost didn't go see Linkin Park because my buddy dropped out like last minute, and I was like, you know what? I've done Thailand solo. I can go to Linkin Park show by myself, and I did, and I would have regretted not going. Just as an example, treat that as in the meetup and community space.
cool. Well, we'll move on. I did want to point out, I love the fact that you said don't use acronyms,
Yes.
because I'm like really new to all of this, and I have learned so much in the last 4 years of doing a community. I'm like the most non-technical person you're going to meet, but it's all part of the process, and so that was just such a great point. So what are some of the emerging challenges you think communities must address right now?
I think if you're a nonprofit, in the nonprofit space, sponsorship and monetization is going to be challenging, especially depending on what your focus is or what space you live in. DEI, DEIB, diversity, inclusion, equity, all of that has become kind of a dirty word. So I see challenges as we go through the next few years from that standpoint.
I see fragmentation of all of these different communities. It used to be here, especially here in Austin. I've been here long enough to say, it used to be that you could find out about all the local communities because we were talking about it, and you could find us all on social media. It was really easy to track down the next meetup. Now, and we also had meetup.com, which was like the de facto platform here in Austin. After COVID, everything fractured. People are having trouble finding different meetups. They're starting to say, hey, I've never heard of that one. Where did that one come from? And it turns out that it's on a different platform. It's on this, it's on that. This person's talking on Mastodon. This person's talking on Blue Sky. This person's talking on LinkedIn. It's a lot harder for us to get the message out that we're here. And the consistency helps. The idea of it's always, for us, always the third Tuesday of the month. You can find us. It's easier to find. But it's getting a lot harder. And also venue. We talked about this earlier, but I'll let somebody else talk about venue. If you want to. You can talk about something else. I'm not telling you what to say.
Is it easy to find venues?
No.
No. No.
So does someone
Come to
want-
Capital Factory. We have a venue, and we would love for you to host your thing, as long as it's technically focused or focused on the entrepreneur.
And if it's
Come
not
talk to me.
occupied, yeah. So
I think the venue part kind of goes back to consistency. I know
Yes.
you shared building that relationship and finding a place to host. It is challenging, but if you can be consistent and find that partner and cultivate that relationship to be like, hey, I want my community to show up here. We'll promote you. We'll talk about you, whatever that looks like. A lot of ours are corporate spaces. Sometimes we have to pay for a venue, and it's not cheap. Rising costs, y'all, is real. Our food and beverage cost is bananas, and we have sometimes 250 people at our events. It's a lot. Yeah.
This is why I host mostly socials now. You just show up at a bar, you let them know you're coming. They love you bringing in business, and they usually give you a drink special and some specials, dedicated space. That's easy enough. But spaces like for educational events, speakers and panels, that's always going to be a challenge, unless you're at Capital Factory every month. But which we need to fix. So venue
done.
space.
It's done. You're welcome.
You're on
Anyone
this
is
panel.
welcome.
Yes.
Everyone is welcome.
Yeah. Well, what about burnout? Any of you?
Me.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
I feel burnout sometimes. So how do you address that?
So I actually did an entire talk about this at the DevOps Days Organizer Summit about how to hand off the torch and how to deal with organizer burnout. Burnout is real. I actually had somebody yesterday, I'm a host of a podcast, and so preview of a new podcast coming out from Cloud Native Compass. Hazel Weekly was talking about how burnout really is about when you have a misexpectation of give and take. So how much you're giving to a community and what you should get out of it. Burnout's going to happen then when there's a disconnect between those two things. And I thought about it for a while because, I'm thinking of it as, I'm going to take stuff from the community. That's not really what it is. It's more about, am I still getting something out of being the one leading this community? Am I still the one getting something out of spending so much time and so much energy hosting all the time? For me, it's that I need people to tell me, those stories, hey, you tripled my income. I need people to tell me those success stories because we talked about the kudos folder. I need that. I need that energy from the community just to know that this is still worth my time. So the idea of please come. If people don't come, as I start to see during COVID, as I started noticing when we came back, there were lower and lower and lower levels of attendance. And now it's starting to bounce back. But that's when I started thinking, am I burnout? I got these communities all handed to me because somebody else burnt out. And I had to deal with the fallout of someone handing the torch to me after they were already tired. And then I started wondering, am I tired? Is it time for me to hand the torch off? It wasn't, but mostly because I had to think about, why was I burnt out? Well, I was burnt out because I didn't feel like the community was getting anything out of me being here doing it. And so that was usually my goal, is to start talking to more people and saying, okay, I'm an introvert by nature. You might not figure that out from me being up here. This is going to take a lot out of me. I'm probably going to sleep for an entire day if work lets me. But the point I guess I'm saying is that if you are burnt out, maybe examine, why do you think that you're not getting what you should be getting out of the community, and not as I'm taking from you, but I am receiving something from the community.
Yeah, does it fill your cup? I had a conversation about that specific thing. Does it fill my cup still with somebody last week? But, I think for me, I say yes to everything.
I think that's a problem on the stage.
Yeah, probably. And I love it. I love people when I show. Some days I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go to that event today. But then I show up and I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing. And it just makes me so excited and happy, even if I am a little bit tired. But I think about situations where I've been like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed right now, work and all the things, and asking for help. So if you can also build that community around you to ask for help and be okay asking for help, that is incredible. And I was really bad for a long time about asking for help. I cannot even tell you how bad I was at it. And then a couple of years ago, I was way overcommitted, and it was through the holidays, and it was crazy. And I turned to Nicole Pletka, who's our current president, Austin Women in Technology, and I'm like, I need help with this event that's in 3 weeks. I'm drowning in all the things, work. We had our SaaS platform at that time. Everything was bananas. And she was like, yep, got you. Let's crush it for these 2 weeks. We're going to rally other people. We're going to make it happen. And it was amazing. And came together, and I was relieved. I was no longer holy cow, how am I going to make this thing happen? And it was okay. Nobody shamed me for asking for help, which I think was when in my 20-year-old brain way back in the day, a long time ago. That's how I felt. I have to do it all. And it's not the case. It's not the case at all.
I love that you said that, and I think it's being transparent and real, because life happens to all of us. Last year I had to have surgery, and I remember Cyndi coming over with a meal, and many people in the community reaching out and helping during that time when I was laid up for a month and a half. So we have to ask. So good. Okay, so we're going to move on. As tech evolves fast, thank you, AI, what role will human connection and in-person experiences continue to play?
I think it's just going to, think about coming out of COVID, right? We almost demanded in-person events as soon as it was, over. And when I moved to Austin, it was just around that time, and everyone was kind of coming out of their little bubbles and getting back together. And we missed that for a few years, right? We missed those in-person connections and those in-person events and the magic and the energy you get from being around other people and having, new conversations. And I think with AI, as a avid user, guilty, but I think it's the same thing. I think there is a bubble potentially of these tools and these platforms and this technology, and not really sure what it's going to look like in the future. But we're going to try and maybe it'll keep us more inside, it'll keep us more virtual, but then at the same time we'll bounce back. It's going to be a pendulum swing again. Hopefully we don't have another pandemic and we experience that ever again in our lifetime. But yeah. Knock on wood. But I do think that we will always, as humans, always crave in-person connections and energy, and that's just not really going to go away. I don't think. It might transform. It might change. It might, hopefully, some things become automated for us as founders and as hosts, so we can focus more on the events, focus more on the people. That would be nice.
this is kind of pivoting away from the community aspect, but I've had conversations with people in the tech space who are really heavy in the AI, like agentic AI space that, the ability to talk to people, connect with people, understand what they do, understand their business is going to be so important as we're building, this is more business related, but as we're building AI solutions for companies, like the developer, the UI UX person has to be able to relate to that. What does the company do? How do the people function? Like, what is that thing that's there that needs to be integrated into the agent to make it work? And so I think fostering community and encouraging people to meet each other, talk to each other, understand what they do at a deeper level is going to be important, because you've got people that are like, they've got like tunnel vision, like I'm going to build this thing and it needs to work like this, but it actually really doesn't need to work like that for the company. So I think when I talk to students, I presented at Texas State a couple months ago with Tim Hayden, who is like so deep in the marketing, data analytics, and AI space, and he's incredible. That was his message to the students, right? Like, get out there, understand how the world works, understand how business works, because that's going to be so important to be able to relate like that as we go forward with technology. Mm-hmm. Kind of like excited and scared at the same time.
I know, it's a little weird. So I have an admission to make in public. I was a principal AI engineer for 5 months until Monday. So now I'm back to being a community architect. So I guess the thing that I want to say is that human beings actually need chaos. And that might sound a little weird. But the idea is that to be able to think through and innovate and build something, aside from just we need people connection, like you can't really live on just some kind of weird AI talking to you. AI doesn't provide that kind of chaotic interaction that we have with humans. So I already told you I have a science background. I think a lot in physics terms. I think in terms of global systems. We bounce off one another. So as we're going through a space, we bounce off one another, we interact, we do different things, and that's what makes us human. If we don't have that, I don't think we're going to be able to survive. I don't think we're going to be able to be different than a machine. So for us to have that creativity, to go do something different, to think something new, something that it can't be generated from an LLM, you have to have chaotic interactions, which is really what you do in a community. So I'll stop doing physics now.
I agree. I've taught my LLM how to send an email in my boss's voice, which has been really helpful. But like the human element of bringing someone a meal or sending a new baby gift or whatever, right? And giving someone a hug because it's been so long since I've seen you and let's take a selfie at an event. Like that Always. Is like a cup filler, right? And something that we still need as humans. And so our day-to-day functions are going to be met by like, help me write this in my boss's voice, but like maybe I won't get that next job, or I won't be able to connect to this really important person to that really important person because we didn't like see each other in person. So I think it's really important.
I also want to say, like, who here like okay, I feel like we all love people on this stage, right? Like, we're all people-y. We see a lot of people.
Most of the time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I have to admit that part.
Like, how many of y'all are like, oh my God, being in a room with 400 people is like, ew. Anybody? Okay. My whole thing I'm going to say is your community doesn't have to be like 1 million people in 1 million events. It could be like literally one person that you connect with, 3 people that you connect with. It could be a church. It could be a whatever. It doesn't have to be showing up to a room full of 200 people to find that human connection. Because my husband would be like, absolutely not. It's 3 people max, and that's it, and I'm out. So
I want to just say that there's always a seat in the back of the room.
Yes. Just to watch.
If you need to go hide, there's always a seat in the back of the room, and you can go and be that person. I 100% admit that usually at a conference, I'm never in the front row anymore because I do too many of these and I have too many people that I need to talk to. So usually you'll find me hovering. So like earlier today, you might have noticed I was hiding back in the back of that room, just like standing there like no one notices me. I'm hiding. So you can do that. That's part of being here for community too. It's just showing up. We need you to show up.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it comes down to.
Okay, so I'm a rule follower, and we're close on time, but I did want to ask one question in one sentence. What's one thing you believe every community member can do to make a difference?
Say hello to someone.
Okay.
Say hello to a stranger.
This should be really short because I want to do questions too.
Show up.
Show up.
Oh, jinx.
Show up.
How about you, Cindy?
Make a connection.
Like, I said be appreciative and offer to help. So
I also, just anecdotal, I'll add into, I like to tell my volunteers this. It's like, yes, talk to people that you know, or say hello to people that you know, and talk to somebody you don't know to make a connection.
nice. I like that. Okay, so we're going to open it up for questions. We have probably time for 3. Okay, any questions? Back here.
Of course, I walked to the front.
We wanted you to get more exercise.
Go figure.
Anna, are we running later?
Thanks for the amazing talk. So I had a question. So I'm curious to know from when you started thinking about forming a community, like that thought or that you had, from the thought to actually implementing it, like how long did it take?
Like 30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Yeah, 30 seconds. Yeah.
Wow.
So real quick, I love that question. When I moved to DC, it took a little while for me to form District Creatives out there. I had to meet my co-founder of the meetup group, and there was a whole thing. But COVID ruined everything. Moved from DC to Southern California, lived on the beach for a while, and then that got boring, and I moved to Austin.
It ruined everything?
And I moved to Austin in Marfa. I'm just sitting there in my Airbnb, and I had just made some food. I'm drinking a Texan Light, and I'm like, I want to do the community thing again. Got up back on Meetup, did the whole page, everything, launched it. Through my first event, I think the first week I lived here.
So I inherit communities usually. I don't always get a chance to make that decision. Usually it's someone handing it to me and saying, hey, I need you to take this. And I go, okay, what am I doing now? Sure, why not? But I'd say, like, starting something new, it's probably going to take me a little while to work up the gumption to do it. So I probably am thinking about it. I don't want to put this in marketing terms. Like, it's not like I'm doing focus groups, but in my head I kind of am, I guess. I'm going to people I know and saying, would you go to this? Would you do this? So I guess realistically, it probably takes me maybe a month or 2 before I actually seriously decide to do it. So, but usually in the end, it's a phone call. Hey, Laura, I'm burnt out. Can you take this? Okay. And then I'm stuck with it. So that's usually how it works.
Yeah, I just saw a need for starting a community after COVID, and I took over a community group, and we just started. And with the women's event, women kept coming to me and saying, we need a place to meet for ourselves, and so we just started that out of that. So if you see need, fill it. Next question? Anybody else?
Oh, sorry. Oh, she has a comment, not a question. Comments are good. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So I actually just wanted to thank you guys for building communities, especially because of the need for the interdisciplinary connections. And because you're volunteers, the amount of time and energy that you guys are putting into this, I will definitely be looking at all of the groups, and especially this one with the bars. Definitely. But I also wanted to give a super special shout out to Capital Factory. I just hopped into this blindly, not knowing how long I'd be following, what I would land on. And Capital Factory has been amazing. The culture there, the amount of people, the amount of events, and just how quickly I'm learning, and how people are just so warm. So I just wanted to give a special shout out to Capital Factory.
What do you do? Are you new to Austin?
Yeah, I'm building a framework, a different core architecture for decision making, for ethical considerations and emotional considerations. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Sounds like something you should present on at Austin Tech Week
In October.
in October.
Shameless
Or you can
plugs.
come and present at FIESTA. We do 1-minute pitches.
Can you guys, sit together?
I know. I asked. I tried to get everybody to come to the
No,
front.
I'm kidding. It's fine.
It's too late for that.
That's my hiding spot here. Hey, Laura.
I know you.
So, maybe a question with a short answer from you, because it's a little bit big. How to build an honest community when you are powered by a company behind this? So that's a big thing. So yeah, it's not an NGO. We're not doing it for the thing. We do it to maybe generate leads, also to make sales. But how to go in the balance between creating the safe space, letting people come, and don't feel like they are a lead.
Yeah. So for context, Engen works at a company that I used to work at, so we know each other. We used to work together a little bit. For those of you who don't know, outside of the Austin area, usually most meetups are run by companies. They're run at their location, and usually it basically feels like you're getting pitched at the entire time. I've been all over the world, and it's definitely that feeling in most cities. I'd say that one of the things that makes Austin unique and how we do that is that if you're going to host it, maybe you host it at a neutral location, it's a Capital Factory, or somewhere else, but bring in your competitors. That might sound like a complete, absolute, why am I doing this? You're going to have a really hard time convincing your marketers to do that. But by bringing in your competitor, you're actually telling people that it's okay to talk about something that's not about my company, but I want you to at least know that we're here. And so to me, like, so for said company, is it okay if I name it? Oh, okay. Well, anyway, let me just say, like, I'm going to pick on Terraform. If I were at HashiCorp, now I work at Red Hat, IBM owns us, IBM also owns HashiCorp, so I'm allowed to do this, maybe. Shh, recording. If HashiCorp was doing a meetup about Terraform, I would actually encourage them to invite somebody from OpenTofu to come speak. And the reason being is that it's an open source project, let's go have a conversation. And then what you're saying is that it's okay to talk about something different that is not my specific community. And you cross-pollinate, which is something we talked about. You bring in other people, and you introduce them to the concept of your project just simply because you're there. So that would probably be the biggest thing that I'd encourage is try to be as vendor neutral as possible, even if you are being a vendor hosting something.